Welcome to another episode of the 9Cubed series. I am back from the off-ramp that I took, and I'm bringing you another episode of the 9Cubed series. In this video, I had an opportunity to chat to Dr. Joyce Mwangama, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Town in the Department of Electrical Engineering. So one of the questions that I got to ask was, what really is 5G? And stay tuned if you want to hear what she had to say. First of all, thank you so much for making time to have a chat with me for this channel. We can just start off by talking briefly about who Dr. Joyce is.
Okay, well, yes, I'm from Tanzania originally. That's where I was born. I grew up in Botswana, but I came to South Africa for my studies. I was very interested in doing something related to engineering and computer science. And I also had a passion for mechanics, interesting enough. But I decided to do electrical and computer engineering, and then, the rest is history.
And it's important also to note that you were my teaching assistant at some point.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure. I've been in the system for so long. I was a tutor, I was a mentor, I was a TA, now I'm a lecturer.
Yes. I think while it may be obvious for some, what does your job entail as a senior lecturer in the Department of Electrical Engineering?
Okay, so I'm teaching on some courses, undergraduate courses. So, for example, analog electronics and communications networks and mobile wireless networks. So the bulk of the job really is teaching, but there's also research, which is supposed to be the other bulk of the job. And my research is in wireless networks, computer networks, and more recently 5G and beyond 5G networks, looking into 6G now actually. And I also supervise some masters and PhD students, work on some projects, research projects with other people, for example, CSIR, MTN, the SKA, and even people from other universities overseas. Oh, great stuff. And would you say there was a moment which made you decide that you want to do electrical engineering? Do you remember if there was such, or how did you come to decide that you want to do electrical engineering? Well, like I mentioned, I was kind of torn up. I wanted to do electrical and computer engineering, and I also wanted to do aeronautical engineering. So I applied for both these things to university because I still hadn't made up my mind up until pretty much the end of high school, when I got my acceptance letter from UCT, and I was like, well, I have to go to UCT. And at UCT, I had applied for electrical and computer engineering. So it was really, the luck of the draw. I ended up doing it, and I haven't regretted it ever since. I know as you have alluded, in one of your research areas, you're looking at 5G, which came under scrutiny not long ago when Corona started to hit us. How would you explain 5G to an ordinary person? What is 5G and why is it important for South Africa or Africa? Well, I'll talk about the issue with the scrutiny. I think with every iteration of a new kind of technology, there's always some feeling from the population that, it's going to cause cancer. And it just happened around the time that Corona was becoming a big thing. So people are like, well, it's causing Corona. It's actually not that different from 4G. It's actually the
not much difference in terms of how much it would impact us as human beings. So it's a whole lot of fake news, right?
Yes.
And so 5G is supposed to be in mobile networks. Every 10 or so years, there's usually an improvement in the technology such that we just branded a new generation. So that's the 5th generation of mobile networking technology. And it's supposed to be allowing for the connection of more people, increased data speeds, etc., but also supporting different kinds of applications. You know, when you think about mobile networks, the thing that you think about mostly is like being able to talk to somebody or being able to watch a YouTube video on your phone. But with 5G, the idea is that it should be expanded to support connectivity for different kinds of applications like smart agriculture or smart transportation or smart buildings or smart. It's just a connection of everything, because with the new up and coming industry, or let's say IoT, Internet of Everything, right? Also industrial IoT, where you have smart factories, smart mining, etc. All of those things are going to require or place a huge demand on the networks and on the internet. So the cellular technology really has to be improved to cater for the coming increase of data that needs to be transmitted.
I know you've been doing excellent work in women in engineering sector. Yes, I would love you to tell us briefly about what that entails, and perhaps something that an ordinary person can do to help support the vision that WIE has.
Yeah, so women in engineering, this is something that I started working on when I was still a student, a master's student. I was an IEEE volunteer. That's the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, which is this professional body that is quite large and worldwide. So one of the aspects of being a member, some people are just members for like benefits like being able to attend conferences at a discount. But there's also another side of being a member, which is being a volunteer, being able to contribute to projects. One of those issues that was really particularly important to me was women in engineering. I can tell you a story. The first time I went for a research conference. This was my first time leaving the country, leaving the continent. I went to this really big IEEE conference, and I think there were like 5 other women there, and it was a conference of over 600 people. So wow. It was, and this was back in 2010. So it was very shocking to see that even in these kind of big arenas that there's very low representation. So obviously when I heard about women in engineering, I wanted to be a part of it and I wanted to volunteer in it. And women in engineering, from being part of the body that supports Africa, Europe, and Middle East, and then eventually the global women in engineering, I came to meet a lot of really inspirational, cool women, and attending conferences where more women were there than men, which was quite nice. And I just feel like I'm always willing and happy to support the inclusion or providing inclusive spaces for women in STEM fields, because while we've made a lot of progress from when I was a student to the way things are now, definitely some progress, but still a lot more can be done.
Wow. And if someone were to ask you, what do you love the most about being in the STEM fields, and in your case, particularly engineering?
Yes, I was mentioning based on the fact that I'm also not only in STEM but in academia and in research, I get to be really on the cutting edge of new things and new technologies and new information And for me, that's always been a passion of learning about technology, implementing technological solutions. And more recently, I've been doing research that's more not just based on doing technology for technology's sake, but for the improvement of, for example, I have a research project where we're working on the use of digital health to help people get healthcare services. And, stuff like there's this, one of the use cases in the project is a town in Carnarvon that has quite a large population, but only has one doctor that services the entire town. So obviously, for them, if they could have a telemedicine system implemented, then more people would be able to get healthcare services than is physically restricted to them because of the fact that there's limited human resources. So that's the thing that gives me the passion and the drive to be in STEM. And yeah.
And then lastly, for those who are aspiring to be in the STEM fields, especially young girls out there, what advice would you give them? I'm sure you have given a lot of those in the WIE events.
Yeah, I think the best advice that I can give is just to consider it. A lot of the times young girls are not told to or not encouraged to consider STEM fields. And a lot of that has to do with, people in their, adults in their life not, buying them dolls and not buying them like a train set or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So just keep your mind open. For me, it was very easy. I was determined. I knew I was going to be an engineer. It was actually, I had to fight my parents who wanted me to become a doctor. I was like, no, I'm doing engineering. And don't let anybody discourage you if this is something that you want to do. I remember when I was in high school, my guidance counselor actually discouraged me from doing engineering. And I had to be strong and be like, no, this is really what I want to do, and I would like that things like that don't happen and people have more people that will support them to do what they want to do. And if anybody needs a mentor, they can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about these things. Definitely you can do it if you put your mind to it. I did.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Dr. Joyce, thank you so much for making time to have a chat with me.